Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got a title match, a family therapy session, and an emotional tribute to Jay Briscoe. It's the Wrestling Inc. AEW Dynamite After Show. I'm Jack Farmer. I'm being joined by the Spar with LaBar champion Justin LaBar and the legendary referee Jimmy Korderas. Fellas, it's Wednesday. You know what that means. How you guys doing?
Good.
Jimmy, I'll let you take it away.
Triple J all week here.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than this, that's for sure.
Triple J dominance, some bloodline style Triple J dominance.
There you go. Acknowledge us.
Yes, you hear that? All the other podcasters, even if you're not a wrestling podcast,
right?
Acknowledge us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even if you're a true crime podcast, acknowledge us. So, good stuff. Us three together as everyone settles in and finds their seats. By the way, if you are settling in and finding your seat, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. You know the drill. Make yourself heard. Hit the like button. Justin, how you doing today?
I'm good. It's as we were talking just before we started the recording, it's been a weird weather day. Woke up to snow, and by the end of the day, it was 45 degrees. Snow had melted, so weird and wacky there. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. I'm looking forward to Royal Rumble with you guys as we're back Saturday night, and I was looking forward to tonight's show. I knew it would be emotional. I knew that it would be one of the, again, much like things were online about a week ago when the tragic passing had happened 8 days ago. I knew tonight again would have a little bit of that come together as a community. Two guys who are going to shake hands. They're going to beat the hell out of each other in the ring for the sake of a good pro wrestling match. But it would all come down to tears, respect, and just appreciation for each other. And that's what happened. And obviously, we'll get to it when we get to that main event. But a lot to be thankful for this week, and looking forward to talking about all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jimmy, how about you? Anything newsworthy?
Other than we didn't get the up and down weather like Justin got. We got snow, plenty of it, and it did not melt. It's just boy, I got my workout in today. Let's just put it that way with the shovel, with a lot of getting my steps in. And like you said, Justin, it has been a very emotional night tonight, and we will get to talk about that. But we'll also give our honest critiques too when necessary. So it's going to be a difficult show in that regard, where you feel bad critiquing something, especially after that emotional moment we saw at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to chat about. I'll say weather-wise, you guys may have snow and ice and all that, but you guys don't know how hard it is to be in the shade and it being 56 degrees, but then in the sun feeling kind of warm. It's brutal. It's just brutal.
How do you handle it? Man.
I mean, you turn a fan on or don't you? That's the world I gotta live in.
That real Jack Farmer hair would not survive this this East Coast weather that Jimmy and I are dealing with.
Yeah, and not only that, at least you have some coating up there to help keep the the cold off. But it's, as we call it up here, it's toque season.
If I was in the weather you guys are in, all the product in my hair would just turn to a giant ice cube, I think, and it would just freeze on my head like a helmet.
And then when you come in the house, it all melts and you're drenched. So
yeah. So I'm glad I don't have to. I'm glad I don't have those problems. But let's talk about a little bit of news that came out. We always like to start with some news, and this one comes to us from the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair, who says he doesn't think that it makes a lot of sense for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Stone Cold to show up at WrestleMania 39 in Los Angeles, stating that The Rock never stops. He's great at what he does, and he's always working with Hollywood, and he's got obligations to the XFL. He also says, obviously, The Rock looks like $1 million, as does Steve Austin, but that has nothing to do with being in ring shape. And basically just kind of goes on to say, why would he do it? Justin LaBar, I see you laughing. What do you think about all this? I bet about being in ring shape.
Well, how can we not talk about this? We can't talk about this and not recognize the comical irony in Rick frickin' Flair saying, "Oh no, guys, you don't need to come back and have a match." So, I mean, I think I get some of what he's saying, but I mean, look, if they're going to come back, they're going to come back the same reason that everybody comes back: the almighty dollar. They have such credibility, they have such a resume that they can command multi-million dollars for a single match. And it's LA. It is Hollywood, and both The Rock and to an extent himself, Stone Cold, are Hollywood. So there's just so many, and then never mind start going into wrestling X's and O's of it's The Rock's family, or it's a maybe somebody for Austin to dig up history with. So I mean, Rick's entitled to his opinion, but I find it very funny of all people to say you don't need to come back for a match at the biggest show of the year.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, Ric Flair, he went on to say that obviously he doesn't need the money, and if he did it, I don't see him doing the favor. And why would he? Why would he do a favor at WrestleMania in his hometown? Kind of an interesting point. I mean, if he doesn't need the money and he doesn't, why come back to lose? What say you?
I kind of half get that point, but at the same time, anybody who's been anyone in this industry, when it's WrestleMania, it doesn't matter whether you are the biggest Hollywood star or anything. You love coming back, and The Rock is a businessman first and foremost, and he knows that there are going to be a lot of eyes on him at this event if he is there. We still don't know for sure. There's a lot of rumors, speculation, and a lot of innuendo out there, but at the same time, whether it's the Rock, who's the biggest star seemingly in the world right now, Stone Cold Steve Austin, when you're trying to bring fans back, these are two names that would definitely attract back that audience that you're trying to reestablish and get them on board with the current talent. And as far as he said that he doesn't see The Rock doing the favors.
That's what he said.
I disagree with that. Far be it for me to disagree with the Nature Boy. Woo! But like I said, Rock is a businessman, and he knows going forward that Roman Reigns is the future, and he's going on to other things. So I could see him definitely giving the rub to his bloodline relative.
And I'd go as far to say that, again, we don't know for sure. Hopefully we'll know here in the next week. Mm-hmm. But I would go as far to say is that if The Rock is going to have a match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, if Triple H even pitched to The Rock, I want you to come in, you're going to work the Mania match against Roman, you're going to beat him, I would go as far to say that The Rock would say, no, I'm only doing it if Roman beats me. Mm-hmm. Like that The Rock would. Now, whether or not that's the final answer of what ended up happening, but I could see that being The Rock's reaction. Like the whole point of The Rock is The Rock. The whole point of using me is to further cement the work that Roman has done and the attention and time you and him have collectively put into his story for the last 900 days or whatever it's been. What's the point of me coming in to beat him only to go back to Hollywood?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like I'm so torn. This is the beauty of pro wrestling, is I'm so torn. Like there's a part of me that could easily see it being like, yeah, he's too busy. He doesn't have time for this. He's on to other things. But there's that other part of me, maybe it's just the wrestling fan in me that's like, but it'd be so cool if he came back. So I want it to happen. I mean, if I hear his theme music and he comes out, I will astro project myself to wherever that stadium is. If I'm not there physically, I don't know what would happen. I'd lose my mind. It'd be the coolest thing ever.
Let me ask you guys both this, because I didn't. This is something I thought about after our Monday night show, and this might be the last time I have a chance to ask you guys this on the air, because after Saturday we might know. This question might be moot, right? We might know. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: if going into WrestleMania, the advertised match is not The Rock. If The Rock is not advertised for a match, but then WrestleMania comes and The Rock makes a surprise appearance to get involved in Roman's match, will you be upset? And I ask on this reason, because if The Rock can make his schedule available for him to be there on that night, To me, that's enough to have him do the match, because you don't need to have The Rock on every week on Raw or SmackDown leading up to Mania. You just don't. Just his name and a presence alone and a recorded video from an iPhone is enough. Roman can do Roman with all of his pieces, with Sammy, the Usos, Solo. They can do all the build they need to do. And then you have a video package of The Rock. So let me ask you, if The Rock shows up as a surprise at Mania, are you mad? And do you go, man, this should have been him in a match?
I would go as far as to say I wouldn't be mad, but I would be very disappointed, because it would be a wasted opportunity. And like I said, trying to attract back that audience. And like you said, Justin, he doesn't have to show up every week. Like he said, a quick little promo video from his phone in the gym working out. Look where I am. Roman, you know me, I'm coming for the gold, whatever if you smell what The Rock is cooking, or what, hit every catchphrase and everything. And again, you're looking to draw that audience. Yes, WrestleMania does sell tickets, but WrestleMania and The Rock?
Yeah, and Jack, I mean, to keep this in mind, and this being out in LA, The Rock is going to be doing media anyways to promote the XFL launching, to promote whatever other million projects he has. So he'll be able to then cut a promo on a ton of media stops anyways that is going to get picked up and the WWE will gladly run clips of. So like, he can do his build in Hollywood. Say, I'm waiting, Roman, I'll be right here at the airport waiting for you. I'll open the door for you. Come on into my town.
In fact, that'd almost be better build, is him mentioning it during other interviews for people who want to talk to him about movies, on Entertainment Tonight or whatever the different things are. But to the original question about being, I'm with Jimmy. I wouldn't be angry, but I'd be a little disappointed, because there's already that little, part of the back of my mind that's like, could he beat The Rock? The Rock's already in there, and to know they were so close, and if it didn't happen, I'd be disappointed. A bit like when The Miz beat Cena at WrestleMania, and you're like, yeah, but I kind of want to see Cena The Rock, and like that was kind of the lingering thing. I feel like that would just happen if The Rock showed up and then didn't have the match. I mean, I'd be happy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, in the moment, I'd be like, this is the greatest thing ever. Right. I say that every WrestleMania. This is the greatest WrestleMania ever. I guess kind of like when Stone Cold was the ref for Goldberg versus Lesnar the whole time. I kind of want to see Stone Cold versus these guys.
Right.
Right.
But I wouldn't be mad at it, But as we continue on, this is where I like to shout out the chat. Let me hear ya. Blue Chew, George Bartley, Kyle McVeigh, Prit Paul Singh. We also got Jakey Bakey and Night One and Daniel Price and Jeroy J and RJ and Ryan and Donald and everyone else. Thank you guys, Jeremy Crockett, so much for being in the chat. We appreciate it. Corey Pry, by the way, Tina Miller showing up. Always good to see you, Tina, Ricky, and everyone else. Appreciate you guys for being here. Like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star review while you're at it. Leave a little comment in there as well. We're counting these now, so you gotta go in there. Even if you're in the chat, I appreciate it. Just once the show's over, hit the comment button and be like, "This is a great show." 5-star.
Shout out. He was on Twitter. I hope I pronounced this correctly. Yash. But he had tweeted the other day. Big fan of the Triple J podcast, and he's from India. Checking out the podcast pretty regularly, it seems. And he gave me his lengthy pitch of the next 12 months of how you could do some WrestleMania booking. So shout out to fans in India.
Yes, absolutely.
Very cool. Yeah. And we, Aaron, Mick, Stephen Camp, Ricky Zaldivar, is it George? And is it George or Jorge? I never know how to say it. Let me know if I'm saying it right. Nicholas and everyone else, Neo as well. Appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for being in the chat. Let us know what you thought of the show as we chat all about it. As we get into it, we got Action Andretti and Ricky Starks teaming up against Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. Lively crowd to start things off, and Andretti and Guevara do a lot of great high-flying stuff with the crowd. Really wanted to see Jericho and Ricky. Exciting matchup that breaks down eventually with Ricky and Chris on the outside, and Daniel Garcia using the bat on Andretti to set up the win for Sammy. Jimmy Korderas, you seem exasperated.
No, look, I enjoyed the match. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the match very much. I love the hot start. I love that they get right into it, because as soon as they came up from the opening intro, Jericho and crew are already heading down to the ring. They're getting right into it, and they're having this a good match, and they're helping the young guys get over, as Jericho has been doing lately. But they use the bat, okay, which I don't have a problem with, because that's what heels do. But the bat sets up the selling into the finish. You got a bat to the head. That should be the finish. There's the heat. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I don't know. It's overthinking, I think, sometimes. We talk about, I talk about all the time, and you've heard it how many times, and you're probably sick of hearing the twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash not being a finish.
With a baseball bat.
Yeah, do it with a bat, and it only sets up, going into another move. That's the only issue I had with it. Let the heat be the bat, because that's why it's there.
Didn't we establish, Jimmy, a few weeks ago that a bat doesn't finish anymore? I can't remember if it was this show or Raw, but didn't we establish that bats don't finish matches anymore? It's like a chop at this point.
Yeah, bats, hammers, all that.
People just you're supposed to woo after you get hit with the
a Hall of Fame ring works, though, or whatever.
Well, and Jimmy, I thought the irony too was, I thought that where we sometimes get on them about the ridiculous, over elaborate ways to try to distract the ref or lack thereof or whatever, I thought it was actually very smooth the way the ref was briefly distracted. Daniel Garcia with the bat, he was quick, he was smooth, like it was a nice fluid transition. But like to your point, boom, it's like they almost had the entire recipe, and then they flubbed at the end. Like you said, then it's like, no, let it just be it. Let that be it. Why do we have to have another wrestling move?
Right.
Yeah. What was I didn't write that. Was it he hit his finisher afterwards, right? Maybe he was just trying to get his finisher in. Sammy Guevara, right? It's like the I can't remember what he calls it, but it's like a go to sleep variation.
Yeah. Apparently a baseball bat's not enough to do it.
No.
So.
So all that aside, one thing I took away from this is I feel like it's very clear where a lot of this is going. And it feels like a lot of stuff was done here, whether it be Daniel Garcia continuing to be the intern, so to speak, of Sammy Guevara, and of course Ricky Starks versus Jericho building up, and I think Andretti versus Guevara or Garcia is happening somewhere in there as well. I liked a lot of that. The thing I was thinking about when I was looking at this, and Jimmy, you alluded to this, I was thinking to myself, I don't know if Jericho gets enough credit for the way he works with people to help them get more known on a national stage. I was just thinking through, like, I mean, Orange Cassidy beat him, MJF beat him, Eddie Kingston beat him, Jungle Boy beat him, Moxley, while he was still becoming known in AEW, beat him, Ricky Starks beat him, Action Andretti beat him, and then all the people in his stables, like Proud and Powerful 2.0, Sammy Guevara, Daniel Garcia. Maybe I just don't see it as much as other people, but I feel like more credit needs to be given to Chris Jericho for kind of going out of his way and working with people who aren't known on a national level to make them known on a national level. Justin, am I digging here?
No, I think that was the very, foundation of him being in AEW from the beginning. And they started Dynamite with him. And his first stable we had, I guess it was at the Inner Circle. I'm trying to remember them all now. But that was the whole point. He signed what I think he is going on record of saying, the most lucrative contract in his wrestling career, a multi-year deal with AEW, and he was tasked. Obviously, he was the most credible person on the roster. He was tasked with bring up this next generation, bring up this next wave of guys and girls who, relatively speaking, are unknown. Yes, they might have been in MLW or some really good independent promotions, but relatively speaking, they have not been on major television consistently in North America. So that's what he's tasked with, and that's why he's been in the stable nonstop. And it's why the most of his stables, with the exception of Jake Hager, consist of guys and girls that first time ever being on TV, like they are every week with Dynamite. That's his whole role. That's it. That's the point.
My only gripe is I kind of wish this Ricky Starks thing was before Ricky Starks had the title shot with MJF, but I feel like that was, I don't know if there was, I don't know. I'm sure there was a reasoning for it, but Jimmy, what say you?
No, I agree completely with Justin, and I can't speak for Jericho, but at the same time, I think I know his thought process, and he realizes that at this point in his career, at this juncture, he can do all this and get all these guys over without going over himself and not lose any credibility, any steam, any heat, whatever you want, whatever term you want to use, because you hear it every time he comes out. Yes, it is that audience that has bought all into it, that program, but still they're chanting, they're singing along to that Jericho song, and during his matches, they react to pretty much everything he does in the ring. So I don't know what he can do to make them stop reacting to anything. He could probably just walk out there, ding, 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 lay down and let somebody pin him and walk out, and people will still love him. He's at the point now where he can't be buried.
We got a few chat. Now, Tina, I wanted to point you out here with the comment, Eddie means nothing now after a story with Jericho. I would say, though, I don't know if that's on Jericho. I mean, I don't know how things work over in AEW, but I don't know if that's on Jericho, what Eddie Kingston's doing right now in AEW.
No, that he falls in the same category as Wardlow. And it was just a ball drop and missed opportunity after, yes, Eddie beat Jericho, but where'd they go after that?
Right. Yeah. Tommy O with a super chat. I want to make sure I get in here. Rumble prediction number 25 will be Pat McAfee, and whoever he throws out, he will feud with at Mania. Book it. I think he's going to eliminate Brock Lesnar. So, okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would actually pay to see that.
that would be, I mean, that would be like a reminiscent of like a Maven drop kicking Undertaker and eliminating Undertaker. I feel like.
That was I remember that was when Maven eliminated the Undertaker. I remember thinking, like, did they mess up? Like, what happened here? Can they get a redo? Is that supposed to happen?
See, we just spent a few minutes talking about a veteran doing all this stuff to try to help elevate youngsters. Taker did that one, did elimination, and where's Maven at today? He's not in the Hall of Fame, I'll tell you that.
I don't know what he's up to, but
there you go. That's the other thing. At least Jericho's making these wins believable, whereas Maven eliminating the Undertaker, nobody bought it.
Yeah. And plus Maven got obliterated after that happened by the Undertaker also. We got a quick video package here. We'll obviously talk about Briscoe here later on in the match a bit more. And we also got, it goes right in with a super chat we just got in from Corey Pride. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Nobody since Bruiser Brody made me believe like dem boys. Jimmy,
praise.
Yeah, Bruiser Brody. And I've always said the thing about the Briscoes is they're one of those teams that I always question, like, is that who they are? I've never met them. They could be that way exactly, or they could be totally different. I don't know, but I really believe they are who they are as they're presented on TV. But Jimmy, watch this video package. They say you can't take it with you, but you can leave it behind. And it appears Jay Briscoe has left quite the legacy, the impact, and the memories on a lot of people.
Absolutely, he has, and I've had, like I said before, I've had the pleasure of meeting them. We weren't friends because I only, worked on the same show as them a couple of times. And always polite, always respectful, really friendly, and just seemed like a good dude. And that guy and the guy you saw in the ring were just, to me, two completely different people. But the guy I saw in the ring, prior to meeting him, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I would do if I ran into this guy. And then when I ran into him, I'm like, man, this guy's completely different from the guy we see out in the ring. And that's the beauty of it. Him and his brother Mark were able to make people believe that the people they saw on television were who they were. And they're just a credit to them, and like everyone's saying, rest well, Jay, and thank you.
You say he was totally different. I still believe he was like whatever I saw in the ring. But Justin, your thoughts on this and just the mammoth task of the video editing team to have to take 20 years of wrestling and find a way to put it into a video package.
It was nicely done, and I couldn't help but think to myself, and I tweeted something to this effect, which was, this is one of those ones where I'm like, obviously the death is tragic. The details around the death are tragic. But I'm like, I'm really glad that Tony Khan and for this situation, I'm really glad that Tony Khan is the owner of Ring of Honor and it is the owner of that tape library, because that tape library contains so much of Jay Briscoe's career. And so Tony Khan had really good access to really good footage to have something put together versus, we don't want this tragedy to happen anyways, but if this tragedy is going to happen, if that's and Ring of Honor is still owned by Sinclair Broadcasting, it's just the footage is just sitting away in a closet somewhere. And, so it was just nice that on a TV show, on a wrestling TV show, the second biggest one, in America, that gets, almost 1 million people a week watching, it was nice that they could remember this guy who obviously made an impact on the business and other people in the business. So that's what I thought was, I questioned when Tony Khan bought ROH, like, do you need another brand? Blah, 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 blah. That's not important in this moment. What is important in this moment is that the fact that he does have it. I thought that. The other thing I thought, so it's, again, cool that Tony Khan fought as hard as it seems he did internally, apparently with the network, to get this Jay Briscoe tribute show to happen and to get Mark Briscoe on and wrestle, to pay tribute to the passing of Jay. I guess it sucks that it took this tragic death to spur then Tony to have to fight as hard as he did. It's like, man, it would have been cool to see the Briscoes on AEW Dynamite, and of course, so I thought that I was like, it's cool that Mark's going to be out there tonight, but it's like, man, it's unfortunate that the Briscoes never got to be on AEW Dynamite.
Right.
It's one of those things that I have a feeling Tony Khan was under the assumption that they'd be with Ring of Honor for a while and he'd get to use them on Ring of Honor for a while and sort of prove the kind of people they really are to Warner Brothers, and then eventually bring them to AEW. But one of those just terribly sad reminders that sometimes you don't get it tomorrow, and sometimes that opportunity doesn't happen. And so I don't know what Tony Khan's plan was, but I agree with you, Justin. Sad that they didn't get to be on AEW, but it's also great that Tony Khan was able to at least get this for them. And yeah, the library is not just sitting on a shelf getting dusty somewhere where no one will see it ever again. Yeah. So we'll talk about that a bit more, obviously, as we go on. We'll transition now to a TNT Championship match. Darby Allin versus Buddy Matthews. Darby Allin coming off of the last match Great Muta has ever had. Buddy Matthews wearing the Darby Allin-esque face paint this time around. Pretty cool matchup. Lights go out. House of Black arrives. But they get fought off by Sting and Ortiz. And once it's one-on-one, we get a bunch of big moves with Darby hitting the coffin drop and getting the win. After the match, Tony goes to interview Darby, but Samoa Joe has a video message saying he's going to beat the brakes off of Darby. Jimmy, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's still relatively new. But so far, what would you rate Darby Allin's TNT title run?
It's man, I'm still on the fence with it, because I want to see the rematch with him and Samoa Joe. Obviously the match was actually pretty good, other than the interruption in the middle. I thought it was a little bit too much with having the House of Black come out and have the interaction. It just, I don't know. I thought it wasn't necessary. These guys were having a pretty good match. They were doing a lot of crazy stuff to each other. It looked like they were doing some real damage to each other. Some of those spots were unreal. But it only, the thing that stuck out to me most was at the end when Joe showed up on the screen and cut that promo. And it made me want to see that, and kind of took me out of the match I just saw, if that makes any sense. It's like that old saying, the last thing you see is the last thing you remember. And after that match, that was the last thing I saw. And that's what stuck in my head more than anything. And I do want to see the match with Darby and Joe, but the match itself was good. It just, I don't know. I don't know how to follow, how to continue this.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty good match, and this match reminded me of it, and several others. If you sit front row at those guardrails at AEW, you better have some knee pads on. The way they go barreling into these barricades. Yeah, I agree with Jimmy to the point of, in my notes here, was the whole blackout, lights back on, and House of Black surrounding Sting. It wasn't really necessary But okay, if you're gonna do it, then at least make it look good. I don't know if this is a lack of communication prior to, or if the production truck thought the House of Black was coming in through the crowd and going to get into the ring, because lights go out, commentary selling what could be going on. Lights come back up. We're still in the hard cam shooting the ring when obviously the entire reveal is on the outside. It's Sting standing on the outside looking up at the House of Black that's standing there at the ramp. So what better way to just kill the horror movie when the lights come back up and I totally miss the horror part. I don't know. I don't know. It did seem unnecessary. It did not seem. It just didn't come up. If you're going to do it well, and it wasn't done well. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the question for me. Is I feel like House of Black is box office on paper. Like when you look at them, I always say if I'm watching wrestling with a friend who doesn't watch wrestling all the time, and their entrance comes on and they walk out, my friend is going to say, who are these guys? What is their thing? I like every piece of this puzzle. It feels like they just, for some reason, I don't know if their tires are spinning when they come out though. And maybe it's because it's quote unquote surprises like tonight where lights go out, they show up, and then they just get chased off by the ragtag team immediately. Maybe it's because it feels like they're always in rivalries with people who kind of look like them, so they don't stand out. It's now Darby and Sting, who are all in black and white like they are. Before that, it was Death Triangle, who are all kind of gothic as well, as opposed to having rivalries with like the Young Bucks, who look different and stand out and would make their, I don't know if it's like when you always see the Big Show versus the Great Khali, and you're like, well, now they just look two regular sized guys who can't move, as opposed to one of them looking big. I don't know what it is, but I feel like they check all the boxes. They just can't get going.
Well, yeah. Well, we thought, was it last week? I think we thought that the House of Black were going to be probably or possibly next in line for the Trios Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden they show up here and start this little thing, and you're thinking to yourself, why? It almost felt like because they wanted to get him on TV. That's all.
Yeah, and then they're trying to outnumber Sting, and then you have I know that it took place last Friday, so in the commentary is trying to get that in. But again, I always say that if you look at the numbers, there's a fraction of the people watching Rampage on Friday, and here comes Ortiz, who we haven't seen him regularly in a long time. Last time we did, it was in a whole different tag team with Santana and a different look. Here he's out there fighting in dress clothes. And I didn't. He just kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, "Who's that?" And the commentary kind of got it off and said his name, but there's all kinds of chaos, and so it just again, it's kind of like it takes the aura away from a House of Black in a way. I don't know. I just don't know why. I don't know. This didn't make sense to me. It didn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was again a classic one of those things. I could see on paper them drawing it up and it sounding like a good idea, but I don't know if the execution went the way they wanted to. Because Justin, I was like, I didn't notice it was Ortiz at first. I was like, wait, who is that? Who is that? Who? And I was trying to figure out who it was. And then once I found out, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it was, the way it was filmed and the way it looked, I don't know. It just didn't resonate with me. And again, I'm bummed out because I think Brody King could be a big star for them. I think Malachi Black is someone who obviously could be a big star for them. And I feel like Buddy Matthews is just built to be that guy, like a TNT champion that has matches every single week and tears it down. And he's strong. He can fly around. He's crazy. I don't know why that makes him crazy being in shape, but he is. Sheed Black in the chat says Darby Allin makes everyone he wrestles look like $1 million. His selling ability is Bret Hartish, shining up other wrestlers real nice. Jimmy, what say you about Sheed Black's comment?
Interesting comment. Yeah, he does make help the other talent he works with look good. But at Bret Hartish and his selling, I don't know. Bret was on a different level from a lot of talent when it came to that. So, interesting comparison by Sheet, but I don't know if I'd go that far.
Probably the first time Darby Allin and Bret Hart have ever been in the same sentence.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think Darby has the advantage of, from a visual standpoint, he's just not a big guy. So it looks brutal when he's getting thrown around and he takes bumps and he takes them good and hard. Even his finisher, where he's in theory, delivering the offense, the coffin drop, and he had a creative one tonight, having Buddy teeter-tottering in the ropes. Even when he delivers that finisher, it looks like, oh, it's just you're giving yourself one big back bump onto another guy's flesh.
Right.
I don't know if that's part. I don't know if like he's outsmarting me, if that's like part of the subconscious, if I'm supposed to like wince at him doing his finisher, and even though that's supposed to be giving him the 3. I don't know. All I know is, I've said this before, he's entertaining to watch. He bumps his ass off. He's not going to have a long career if his style remains this. He's just not. That's just a fact of science and body.
Yeah, I was watching, and I was actually thinking that today. Like, how is he not just in agony every single day from what he does to his body? Because, and it's not like he's got a lot of tissue there to like absorb a lot of the moves there, but
and the crazy risks that he takes. And then he does really good filming his videos and his vignettes, which are interesting. But like, I hope the dude's got a life insurance policy.
Man, I slept on my shoulder wrong the other day, and it hurt all day. I don't know how this guy. I don't know how he does what he does. It's like, time to go to Japan and do it again, and fly back to the States and do it again. Yeah. Bless him. Good on him. I don't know how he does it though. We get another package for Adam Cole, baby, return video. And it definitely seems like he's on the nice guy side of the tracks these days. But Justin, it looks like he's hinting at a possible return at Revolution.
And that's great. That's an attraction for that show. Keep him on. I mean, obviously have him on TV between now and then. Great. That's great. We've missed him since he was out since June. But that's one where don't just give him his match away. I mean, God, you got a bloated enough roster. You have plenty of people to do matches, much like you're doing with MJF. Make people wait, make people pay to see him in action. So I totally agree with that decision. If that's where they are going with it. Obviously, the next big piece of the puzzle, like you said, he looks like he's on the face side of the fence. I agree with that. The fans want to cheer him and want to embrace him. Let's okay, you did your whole thing where he was like with the Bucks, wasn't whatever. We did this whole thing. But the fans want to, and quite frankly, if AEW can stay focused and not scatterbrained, like we've seen with Wardlow or Eddie Kingston and others, if they can follow through, Adam Cole's got the potential to be the top babyface in the company. He really does. And then when you start talking about, and when you talk about top babyface in pro wrestling and sports entertainment, when you talk about top babyface on a show, on a company that has a show on TBS every week, what you also have to consider is how do they carry the flag? How do they do carrying our banner? And I can tell you from firsthand experience, I've done it with him. Adam Cole is tremendous at media. He's tremendous sitting on the couch in a TV studio, talking and chopping it up and having fun. He's a good guy. He's a good person. You're not going to find bad skeletons in his closet. He is a good person to go out there and speak on behalf of the company and carry their flag. And I think when you look at a POS that an MJF character is, what a great opposite foil an Adam Cole could be for him. And so that's I'm pumped, and I just hope they take great care with the Adam Cole project.
Quick follow-up for you, Justin, because I always like your views on booking. If he does return at Revolution, who's his opponent?
I wish I could give you a great answer off the top of my head. Maybe one will come to me before the end of this episode. I don't know. You want to find a solid heel, obviously. Again, if this is his first match as a babyface in the company, then naturally, and I say solid heel because AEW blurs the lines. So you can't put somebody out there who, I hate the word tweener, but you can't. I always think of a locker room as a backyard divided by a fence. You can't find somebody who's straddling the fence. You need to find somebody who's clear cut, pissing on the heel mulch somewhere.
And Jimmy, I think that it's gonna be very hard to get fans to boo Adam Cole, at least for the foreseeable future here. And I think personally, that's great because I feel like AEW could use some true blue good guys right now.
No, absolutely. And Adam Cole can be that guy. And like Justin said, he ticks all the boxes when it comes to a babyface. You want to be the face of your company, not just on Wednesday nights or Friday nights, but also in the media and talking to outlets. And let's say, he shows up on WrestleZone talking to Nick Hausman or whatever the case may be. He's that good at just he makes the business look good, because unfortunately with some media there is that, the wrestling guy kind of mentality. But when you talk to people like Adam Cole, you realize that, hey, this is a bright, intelligent guy, and he has a way of presenting himself. And hey, he gets people interested. And
Yes.
when his character is out there, what we saw tonight, I thought was a lot of him. That's for sure.
I do think he's the face of the company of a new generation, the guy that does Twitch streaming while playing video games. And I think he speaks to a younger generation a lot more than maybe an old school guy would.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off. And the one thing that he does well too is, we talk about old school versus new school. He's one of those guys that can blend those two schools together very well.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, I wouldn't take this approach with too many people if I'm Tony Khan, because you could go chasing a lot of rabbit tails, and a lot of guys and girls can start to inflate their own value, and they can start to inflate their own, what the other guys might give me. I don't know what Adam Cole's contract situation is. I don't know. It could be up in the next year. He could be locked in for the next 3 years. I don't know. I legit don't know. But I will say this: I am pretty certain to say that he is one that if he wasn't with AEW, as soon as Triple H got back in that power, got in that power over the summertime, Adam Cole would have been a first phone call.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a guy that Adam Cole's a guy that Triple H would be pushing to the moon and positioning to be one of the next faces of the next generation of WWE. So I say all that for this reason: if you're Tony Khan, you can do it with MJF and you can do it with Adam Cole. Short list of guys and girls you got to think, okay, I got to book them good, protect them, and take care of them, make them want to be here, because I will lose them. And not only will I lose them, if I lose them, they're going to succeed really well on the other show, and trickle down effect hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
MJF's using that as part of a storyline, and MJF is one of those people to where if he goes to the other show, that's going to be a big deal. Adam Cole's another one. If you let Adam Cole go, or if his contract expires and he says, I think I haven't loved this experience, or I think there's still more for me, and I could get it in New York, that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that most people on all rosters are getting looked at as far as like when their contract is up and things, but there definitely are a short list of people who will be aggressively pursued if they're available. And I think Adam Cole, Justin, to your point, is one of those guys. I think Tony Khan, he obviously it's in the ball's in his court. I would do everything I can to make sure Adam Cole is very happy and never wants to answer a phone call from Connecticut if I was him, because I think he could be one of those game changers kind of wrestlers for the company. We got a super chat while we were chatting. Sheed Black, going back to the Bret Hart comment, said Bret did the same thing with bigger wrestlers like Papa Shango, not the flying around though. That was Owen when he was Blue Blazer. Again, I feel like maybe just because there was Bret Hart growing up was my favorite of all time. So I feel like you're not allowed to compare to him. Like he's just one of those guys, you're not allowed to compare to him. He's his own thing.
Bret Hart sold appropriately for the opponent he was facing. That's simple as that.
To be fair, as a kid, it was because I wanted those shades, though. That was the real reason I was just one of those shades. I was like, we got Ethan Page and Matt Hardy versus Hook and Jungle Boy. Kind of fun back and forth. Matt Hardy's about to hit the twist of fate. Ethan Page demanded the tag, and it ended up getting caught in the snare trap and tapping out. Justin, two things on this one for me watching this was it felt like there was a lot of stuff I needed to be watching Dark to really understand, but also Ethan Page never stops. Like he felt like he was doing character stuff or wrestling or whatever it was the entire match.
Yeah, no. Look, the jungle hook thing. Two smaller, undersized guys. They don't even look like adults when they stand opposite the ring of Matt Hardy and Ethan Page. But I get they have an appeal to the audience. They have a certain charisma that the audience isn't naturally connected to. So I'm not going to dismiss them that they shouldn't be there. But I will say I do. When I look at it visually, I'm like, there's a problem. But then they try to really make you believe and come back again with their charisma, with their underdog kind of appeal. Ethan, you're right. Ethan Page does not stop. But here's the thing: Ethan Page and Matt Hardy, they lose. They lose again. I feel like I don't see a lot of W's for these guys. And again, I'm not talking about Dark and Elevation and Rampage. I'm talking about Dynamite. And all I can then think about is Ethan Page. He's in the Firm right now. Prior to that, he was with Dan Lambert's thing, which just naturally just dissolved, I guess, with no explanation and whatever. Matt Hardy's been in. Matt's been in so many different things since he's been there. He's been Broken Matt. He's been Hardy Boy. And then he's been with the Private Parties. I can't keep track of it. And all I can think is, God, we have just. I categorize Ethan Page, which is one of the best up and coming younger guys in the business. I'm categorizing him alongside Matt Hardy, who is one of the greatest ever in the business. Here I am having to categorize them in AEW. It's just two guys that are always in mediocre stables taking L's. I don't love it.
I agree with you on that, because I think that Ethan Page is one of those guys that you can really be a foundation to a company. Because I think he's one of those guys that could seamlessly have a world title match and then go and have a undercard match, whatever that card is going to be. He could have big rivalries, small rivalries. I feel like you could slot him in anywhere. And Jimmy, I see you nodding your head.
Yep.
This is where we talked about stables in WWE in previous shows. This is where I wish they would just remove the Firm and just have Ethan Page with Stokely Hathaway if they want to have him with a manager, and just have those two focus on those two.
Absolutely. And like you said, he is a very underrated talent, because not only is he good in the ring and nonstop, and he's always thinking, and he's always, active in some form or fashion, but he's great on the stick too. He can talk like you wouldn't believe. But that's the reason why, technically he doesn't need a manager, but if he's in a heel stable, I could see why you would put him with a mouthpiece or something like that, but he doesn't need one. Absolutely not. And sorry to cut you off there, Justin. People talk about, he's got that MJF thing going. I think they're kind of, I don't want to say they're similar, but they can go in the ring and they can both talk people in front of their television sets or into seats or whatever. They have that ability.
Yeah. And just to continue, I want to acknowledge, I did appreciate the story within the story of the match, which is all ego. Ethan Page has such an ego that he keeps getting himself tagged in after Matt's doing all the work. I mean, I get it, and I appreciate that, but the payoff has to be warranted, and the story has to have a payoff that's warranted, and I don't think we're going to get that payoff. So again, it's just going to go down as another L. And to what Jimmy was talking about is like, we got this Firm. It's got Stokely Hathaway, and I don't even know how many guys he has. I've kind of lost track. When reality is, Matt doesn't need to be in this group. I know Matt. I know there's an audible with Matt because of the situation with Jeff and not having Jeff, and they thought they were going to have a great Hardy Boys tag team run. Maybe they will eventually. I don't know. So I get that Matt's kind of like a detour, an audible that to be called. But you don't need all these people in the Firm. You know what you need? If you're determined to have Stokely Hathaway on TV as a manager, you know what you need for his Firm? All ego Ethan Page and Big Bill. That's what you need. Yeah. That's what you focus on. You don't need all these other ancillary characters and people. Sorry to all those other ancillary character people if you're watching, but that's the reality of the situation. And to that point, Jack, to go back and answer one of your fantasy booking questions to me earlier, heat Big Bill up, heat him up like he is dinner tonight. Heat him up. Give me a heel Big Bill to an Adam Cole. Give me something that's two guys that have been seen on the other companies before, that have a little bit of history to wrestling audiences, but I haven't seen them in the ring together. And Adam Cole is he models himself a little bit after a Shawn Michaels today. Give me a Shawn Diesel. Give me something like that. If you're trying to think of new, fresh perspective, give me fresh face Adam Cole versus freshly signed and heated up heel in Big Bill.
I'd love that. That'd be great. And you don't even have to like overthink it. You can just have Big Bill squashing people for the next few weeks, or something. I don't know. And then
have the firm. Sorry to cut you off. Have Stokely if Stokely is the representation, have Stokely take a pass at Britt. Try to write a check for Britt to sign. Because they don't shy away from Britt and Adam. So go ahead and lean into it. Just go ahead. Just do it.
Yeah. Easy peasy there. As we move on, we got a family therapy session between the Gun Club and the Acclaimed. It's a line that's kind of stuck, and the crowd even kind of reacted to it. I think hit harder than we expected when the Gun Club says, "Our faults as sons is your failure as a father." And it was kind of interesting to me, Jimmy. This was a much more serious Gun Club than we've seen in the past. Acclaim still kind of silly and fun. This was a very WWE segment watching this. What were your thoughts on it? And what are your thoughts on getting Gun Club Acclaimed again?
Because of this therapy session, I'm interested in seeing this Gun Club versus Acclaimed again. And the line that you said, like that line really stuck with me. You were on the road, you weren't home for us and stuff like that. That sits here as well, because I was out there with them, and I know what it's like to be away from your family, and I could see how it feels real. Again, you talk about taking elements of wrestling, it's sports entertainment. We tell stories here, but when you add elements of realism into it, and maybe there was a little bit of resentment with the fact that Billy wasn't home all the time for his kids. Who knows? Maybe they were okay with it. We don't know that, but the fact that they brought it up made me go, and got me more invested in the story that they're telling.
Justin, are we going to see a different Gun Club going forward than what we're used to? Or is this just a one-time thing?
Well, no, I think we need to see a little bit more aggressive edge. I think because up to this point, the Gun Club, they have been kind of comedy. They've been the discarded ass boys. They were so discarded that their father again left them to join the more popular tag team. So I do think that you need to get they advertised next week on Dynamite the Acclaimed in action. That's all. They kept it very generic. They kept it like we're going to see the Acclaimed, versus like two local talent, like local jobbers type of thing. I think we need to see some aggressive mean streak of the Gun Club, because they are in a position right now to be elevated as a contender in the tag team division. That doesn't mean they have to win the tag team titles, but they can really gain some credibility. And again, there's backstory to the very point of this conversation. Like you said, the crowd reacted to that line, so there's backstory, and this is not us saying these two people are brothers when they're really not. I mean, Billy Gunn is their father. That's real life. So that helps and aids this along, is that it's real. So I'm all for trying to get them as an established tag team. If that's where we're going, again, they don't have to win the titles, but I think they need to show some credible aggression. And they need to get some wins. So again, I know it's only 2 hours and we got a lot of people we're trying to make happy on the roster, but I think we need to dedicate several weeks of Wednesdays to trying to get them some victories.
Yeah, I agree. In general, it feels like there's got to be a little bit of focus. Like these are the 6 stories that are most important to us, and really drive some of those home instead of some of the other stuff that maybe isn't as important. We get a Hangman Adam Page promo. He says that he wants to knock out Moxley next week in Ohio. And then Wheeler Yuta butts in and is like, well, I want to fight you on Friday. Jimmy, Wheeler Yuta seems more and more like a jerk the more he gets on the microphone. I feel like he's constantly like butting into other people's business on behalf of other people.
You can say that. It kind of felt that way tonight, that's for sure. But good luck to him this Friday. The thing I found interesting here is for the last couple of weeks is that Renee is the one interviewing Hangman Page, and they're really playing that up too. You could see, and Renee's doing really well with the expressions. She's trying to be professional, but at the same time, you can tell that, he's hitting some nerves. And again, you talk about realism and people are thinking, oh, wow, he's taking shots at the interviewer's husband. This is, and stuff like that. So I enjoyed that aspect of it more than the Wheeler Yuta stuff. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Justin, they do a good job of. It's clear that there's a relationship between Renee and Moxley. I mean, we know as fans, and they make it clear and obvious, but they also don't lean into it like over the top silly either. I think they're balancing that pretty well.
They are, and you need to look. You can over a course of time. If Moxley really gets into a feud later on, and I'm talking like years down the road, if him and Renee are both still with the company, if Mox gets into a real personal feud, you can bring out Renee coming out to check on him because when he just got really taken down, or maybe somebody again taking a shot at her or whatever. But if that's what you go to right out the gate, I mean, she's only been with the company for a couple months. If you go to that immediately, you don't allow you to recoup on your investment, which is having her on TV, good with a mic, good leading segments. You just turn her into essentially just, look, Miss Elizabeth was all in the glory days was always linked and was always the part of the Macho Man story, and that worked because that's what she was there for. If you immediately if the first storyline for Moxley in AEW, the first storyline since signing Renee is implicating Renee and using her as heat, you just turn her into a Miss Elizabeth, and you don't get to have the investment as Renee being, again, a good host with with credible podcast and credible TV background, and you're just squandering your investment. You're just, why don't you just go out and hire all the guys' wives in real life and bring them on TV?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just so but I agree. I think they have done a good balance of that. And I'm a little surprised they're doing this match next week. They're doing the match number 3, the rubber match, so to speak, on this Dynamite with a week's notice. I would have thought maybe they try to carry this out to one of their more premium Dynamite episodes, or even to the next pay-per-view. For whatever reason they're not, and we'll see. I can only assume it's because they have bigger plans for one or both Mox and Hangman for the March pay-per-view.
Yeah, both those guys are face of the company type guys. So it is interesting. I think all 3 of these matches will have been on just random Dynamite episodes. So very interesting in that regard, but we'll see. Hey, I like free stuff. I'm okay with that. Some people they're like, they gave it away for free. How dare they? I'm like, well, I like it. I like free. Give me as much free stuff as you want.
No, that's cool. But at the same time, when you've got something that's like high level, what this could be, and be an attraction that it is, sometimes it's good to hold off and really pump it up before you do it.
Yeah.
And I still go back to, is this to get this done? And then, like, again, we Mox was supposed to, but I'm saying Mox was supposed to have some time off after All Out, which we all know, and then the CM Punk thing, and then Mox kind of had to stay around and handle business for the company. Is this a case of, okay, let's give people a payoff, let's give Hangman the win in the rubber match so Hangman can be projected and elevated. Okay, Mox, now you can go have several months off. Is that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll see. But someone who's getting elevated is Bryan Danielson. He had a match with Brian Cage. The story here is MJF wants Cage to break Danielson's arm. It's a good match. These guys are good wrestlers. Go figure. But post-match, Cage attacks Danielson. MJF comes out with the chair. The bad guys go to work on Danielson's arm, and Takeshita comes out and makes the save for his new pal. Jimmy, this is you are a referee, and so I've actually been waiting all night to ask you this question. It's been sitting on, like, kind of bugging me. Do you spell Brian with a Y or an I?
Me, for me, it's always an I, but I know him, it's a Y.
You got to choose one. What's the right way? There's only one right way.
Well, the right way is what's on his driver's license, birth certificate. And if it's BRY, then that's the right way.
It safe.
Yes, exactly.
But so this was a match. This was a great match. I think we all knew that Danielson was winning because it would be kind of weird if he lost at this point. Brian Cage takes another loss. Danielson's a made guy. Cage, though, I feel like he's another one of those guys, checks every single box you could imagine, but for some reason can't seem to get going.
He's got the Wardlow syndrome right now. It feels like, in some respects, and again, here's another match where the aftermath, overshadowed basically the match for me, because it was a good match. It was. Go ahead, Justin. I know you want.
Oh no. I was listening. I'm listening. I know. Brian Cage is another guy who I just categorize as he's in mediocre stables. He was part of Team Taz, which just fizzled out and never went anywhere. And now he's in the whatever Prince and Anna's thing is. And I know he still holds an ROH title. I think I read the other day that the 6-man title. Yeah, but I think I read the other day that Cage's AEW contract is expiring soon. So I'm curious what that means in terms of like, does his AEW contract end? Does he still have an ROH contract? Is that separate? Can he still be used for the ROH properties? My only, I love watching Bryan Danielson. So I have no critique for him. You can't critique Bryan Danielson. He's arguably the greatest wrestler in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
My critique is this: they made this whole thing about MJF giving Cage and Prince Nana more money than they've ever seen in their life last week, right? For Cage to be the mercenary, just to break Bryan's arm. The wins and losses don't even matter. It's break the damn guy's arm. Break the guy's arm. Cage went into that mercenary mode post-match. Why, if you're being given more money than ever and you're tasked with screw wins and losses, destroy this guy, I wanted to see more fire out of Brian Cage when this whole thing started. Attack the guy as he's making his entrance. Attack the guy before the bell. Like, if this is truly about earning your money, so that's what I thought was kind of missed on this. I know that we have to give people a traditional multi-segment wrestling match because that's what you do when you have Bryan Danielson, because he can do that. And you could still do that, but you could spend the entire first segment of it being Bedlam and Brian Cage just beating the crap out of Bryan Danielson before we get into the match, and then you can have the rest of the match, and then here comes Bryan Danielson, Hulk him back up. That was what I missed in this whole thing. Was you're the mercenary and you're waiting for the bell to ring and play by the rules? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't usually pick apart like what moves were done where in matches, but I did notice, I was kind of surprised there was very little working the arm in this match, considering the whole premise was Cage is there to break the arm. I mean, he did a few things, but like even the post-match attack, the first thing he did was hit his finisher, which isn't an arm move. I mean, where I feel like you could have just laid his arm flat and stomped on it, and that would have told the story so much more than all the other stuff he was doing.
Even things like have several backstage things before we get to the match. Like earlier today, we showed Bryan Danielson showing up at the arena, and Brian Cage attacks him and slams his arm in a door, and then later Brian's being checked out on the trainer's table, and Cage storms in there and have him just be menacing all day. Even that, I don't know. I mean, we have the luxury of armchair booking, but that was my big note again, was like, this is supposed to be this tall hill that Bryan Danielson has to climb to get to MJF, and MJF gave Brian Cage more money he's ever seen, and Brian Cage is just coming out waiting for the bell to ring. Like, no, that's not.
I love that idea of showing the during the day all the attacks and Brian Cage going to work on the arm and showing Bryan Danielson in the trainer's room with Doc Samson, and Doc Samson saying, "Look, you can't go tonight." And the amazing promo that we got from Danielson after the match, if we would have had that promo before that match saying, "You're not stopping me. Nobody's stopping me from entering that ring tonight." And then he goes into the match, as the underdog because of his arm, and somehow coming out victorious to further the story of him versus MJF. Maybe that would have worked. I don't know. Again, the advantage of post-show armchair quarterbacking.
And again, it's the post-show, quarterback booking, but you could even then, instead of having Cage take the loss like that, you could have just said and say, "Look, I'm here to break an arm, bring out the chair and just go after the shoulder or the arm again and take the DQ loss." Because they established earlier on, it's about breaking the arm. It's not about winning the match. So if that's the point, then it's okay for him to say, "I'm okay losing," because there's a reason.
And if he gets DQ'd and MJS says, "But you got DQ'd," he said, "You didn't say anything about how to do it. You didn't say about winning the match. You just wanted me to do damage, and I did damage."
There is a little part of me, and again, this is kind of nitpicky, but there's this part of me too about wrestlers getting paid off. And I get that there's like the $1 Million Man thing or something about getting paid off, but I'm also supposed to believe these are major superstars, and he's a champion. Shouldn't I assume he's already pretty well off? I don't know.
You can always use more.
Yeah,
I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the JBL HBK thing, where HBK is like, "I have no money." It's like, "What? You're like a massive superstar. What do you mean you don't have any money?" Like,
so what you're saying is, if MJF goes to Darby and says, "Darby, I've seen you in these black and white videos. I can't even afford color. You're skateboarding from place to place. You don't have money for a bus ticket. I'm gonna pay."
Yeah.
But Brian Cage, you obviously have a gym membership at every gym in the country.
Right. Yeah. And your manager is royalty. Like, what? Anyways, that's nitpicky and it doesn't really matter, but it was one of those things I was kind of, I don't know.
The African currency exchange rate over to the dollar these days just isn't.
It's just brutal.
right.
We got Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho. It was supposed to be a triple threat, but Britt Baker was hurt, so she got pulled. In the pre-match, we get some little pre-tape promos, which is fun. The story here: homegrown stars versus stars from elsewhere. Even though Ruby Soho is also from WWE. The story here: Ruby hits a knee to the face of Storm. Storm pretends to be hurt. Storm takes advantage. Britt's music hits, distracts Storm, and Ruby gets the win. Jimmy, the homegrown talent, plus Ruby, get one up on the people who came in from WWE.
Yeah, I guess, sort of, kind of. Again, it's one of those situations where the women were placed in that terrible spot right before the main event, which they do every week on
9:30
AEW. There's a 9:30 spot. It's time for the women. I like that they tried to. They did have a pretty good match, which was good. And again, like you said, that's the issue. Ruby came from the same place that they were talking about, so that's the conflict I'm having with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's not, like they said, the homegrown talent from the women's division, and Britt is that homegrown, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
No, please go, Jack.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like they're trying to adjust to how the crowd's reacting to things. I like the idea of it. It definitely feels weird that Ruby is kind of the face of the team that is supposed to be defending homegrown talent.
Yeah, I want to compliment. I did like both ladies' pre-tape promos that they played at their entrances. I thought both were good. They were quick, but they had good quotable lines, good sound bites. And the match, there's nothing wrong with the match. And again, it's an audible, not having Britt out there, so not having Britt in the match, so they use her on the stage distraction. I will say this: I'm fine with it. Looks like Britt is being transitioned into a face. Obviously, the crowd is booing Tony. They're booing Saraya. So go with where the crowd wants to go. I'm fine with all that. I would just say tread lightly on the booking being based around this AEW homegrown versus not, because if you keep going down this route of that, and you're painting the AEW women who come from other places as the heels, well, you might start to train the audience that the next former WWE woman you sign that comes over, you might be tainting the reaction that they're going to get, whether you want that or not. So I would just be careful. That's a very fine line to walk. I don't know. That's my only thing I'm thinking is I don't know where this is going, but you run a risk of the NWO was the premise of the NWO was it was a hostile takeover from WWE. It was all orchestrated by Vince and WWE to take over WCW, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it worked that you saw Ted DiBiase, Mr. Perfect, Virgil. It worked every time you saw a WWE guy show up. They're supposed to be on the payroll of the hostile takeover. They're the heels. But I mean, that's not the story right now with the women that are coming from, so it's just they have to be careful with that. That's all I'm saying. That's my worry, is they might get themselves into a corner that's going to affect future debuts. Right.
Like you said, Jack, that is a very good point.
Yeah, it's very similar to Justin, to like what you just said. I always thought one of the problems that John Cena always had to overcome was for years we were told the guy that Vince McMahon chooses to be the face of the company is a bad guy. And then John Cena comes around and we all know that he's the guy Vince is choosing. And we're just reactive, like reject who Vince is choosing to be the next, face of the company. And I just thought he had to overcome that. I will say what I like about this is I think what AEW's women's division has needed for so long is rivalries and stories that aren't for the title. Because you've got your title matches, that's going to be set. But now you've got Ruby Soho, you've got Britt Baker and Saraya and everyone else, and they're not in a world title picture. They're just in a rivalry together, which I think is a great way to start building that division. I do know they have that same time every week that they're on. I would just recommend to all the fans who want to see more of them, that's when you tune in. That's when you tweet like crazy that they're your favorites. If you're in the audience, that's when you get loud. That's when you show support for them. Like, that's how you get more time. And that's how you get more stuff. You can't wait for them to get more time before you start responding to them. Give them, even if it's at the same time every single week, hit Twitter like crazy once they go on. If you're in the audience, get loud. Give them that, that noise, and that's how they get more time. So just that's how you be supportive. Don't wait for it to happen. Be the person to do it, and that will definitely help get them more time.
Right.
We got a quick promo. I probably should have mentioned we were talking about MJF, but whatever, we'll do it now. MJF comes out and he kind of takes some shots at Takeshita again. But then also says that Justin LaBar, Timothy Thatcher's coming next week, and he's going to continue to work on the arm. What are your thoughts about Timothy Thatcher and the next person to challenge Bryan Danielson?
Thatcher certainly, a lot of fans might remember from NXT. He's got that. He's got that William Regal type of Blackpool Combat Club kind of style to him. He's very, very, meticulous and methodical to body parts and that type of offense. And look, is Timothy Thatcher going to pop a big number? I don't know. Probably not. But I also understand that Tony Khan, part of what he enjoys about, owning a wrestling company is he likes to bring in guys and girls from virtually every company. And just showcase them and have it kind of, he's talked about how he likes his glory days of, he likes Monday Nitro back in the day when you just never knew which oddball random match you might get. And it's his money. So I guess, or it's his dad's money, but nonetheless, so it follows his passion. I'll say this, it's cool in the fact that it's an original match. I don't think I've ever seen Bryan and Thatcher anywhere, and it's original, so it keeps you guessing. I'll just leave it at that, I guess. So.
Jimmy, any thoughts on Thatcher? I will say the thing I like about Thatcher is he absolutely looks like a maniac. He looks like someone that wants to hurt people, and it seems like if you're the kind of wrestling fan that likes wrestling, it'll probably be your favorite match.
Exactly. You're reading my mind. This hits the wheelhouse of the diehard AEW fan, and that's who this match caters to. Timothy Thatcher against Bryan Danielson. Yeah, I almost said it the other way around, like I always do. But like Justin said, those who know will say, that are into just a hell of a wrestling match. We're going to get that. We know it's going to be a hell of a match. It just we need more than just a good wrestling match. And yes, Daniel Bryan is arguably, like Justin said, one of the best wrestlers on the planet right now. And there's really not much you can critique with him. And a match with Timothy Thatcher, I think they're going to really, really knock it out of the park for as far as in-ring goes. It's just, again, it's a business at the end of the day. And will it pop a big number? Likely not. But I'm sure I'm going to enjoy the match. It's just where do we go from here?
Right. We move on to the main event. This is obviously the story of the show, Jay Lethal versus Mark Briscoe. And this was one that, I'm not going to pretend I've watched a ton of Briscoe brothers. I've seen a lot of their highlights and I've seen a lot of their bigger matches. And so I went into it knowing it would be emotional, but I got to be honest, when Jay Lethal came out, tears in his eyes, it definitely hit me. Jimmy, this is, it's a tribute, and I think it was a touching tribute, and I'm glad we got it.
I am too. It was wonderful. I enjoyed seeing it. I enjoyed seeing Jay Lethal and Mark Briscoe, and I enjoyed seeing Paul Turner in the ring calling the match as well. Obviously, like I say, the referee's not supposed to be a focal point of attention, but in this case, Paul Turner, who had a long, friendship with the Briscoes from the ROH days, because he was a longtime referee in ROH. Everything that the guys left it all out there. It was very emotional. You could see it. You could feel everything that they were doing in the ring, and just the respect factor afterwards, was touching as well. And having the entire locker room empty out and come out on the stage to pay tribute to everybody and to pay their respects. I don't know how much more you could say. It was very emotional to watch, and thank you for doing it. It meant a lot to a lot of people, and especially the family and the close friends of the Briscoes.
Yep. Justin, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I echo everything Jimmy said. I like that. Obviously, we knew it was a match of two guys that had great respect for each other, but I like that they still turned. They still turned it into a little bit of a hardcore match, and the spot of Mark off the top onto the table onto Jay at the outside, and I think at that point commentary had even said, "This is Jay Briscoe's song. This is the kind of thing he wants. This is the kind of So it put it all in perspective. And the biggest compliment I want to give is to, look, if we when we critique, if Tony Khan's the one ultimately has to field our critique of of bad timing of a show, of Jimmy's expression of 20 pounds in a 10-pound bag, they did a good job tonight from the coming out of the opening package to Jericho and them already being halfway down the ramp to everybody else either hitting their times, or if somebody went over, Tony made sure the next group got shaved off time, whatever. They did a nice job. It was 9:57 East Coast time, and 9:57 and change that the match ended. Mark Briscoe's declared the winner. And so that left them 2 full minutes to allow him to celebrate, for the roster to come out, for the embrace, and nothing to feel rushed. And because of that not rushed, it ended with Mark Briscoe hugging a few people on the top of the stage, Tony Khan being one of them, and then celebrating with just muscles bulging, passion in his eyes, and facial expression to the camera, with above him on the giant screen the in memoriam to his brother. And what a powerful image to go off the air with. And you don't get that if that match ends 90 seconds later and you're rushing and he can't get back up to the top of the stage naturally. And that, so I want to give Tony Khan and everybody who times the show out or whatever credit for not letting that run over and allowing, and not letting that be not letting that be rushed, and allowing that ending to be, you fought so hard to get this show with the networks, so take care of it. Don't squander those last couple minutes. Don't let things be rushed. And they did a great job. And how they presented that the final minutes.
Amen.
Yeah. I think you said it perfectly. As I was watching this, you watch wrestling and sometimes they're characters and you almost sometimes forget that they're real people too. And something like this reminds you very quickly that they're all real people that have real lives. And you could definitely see that in this final match, that they're real people celebrating a real person. And the end, I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but is the people that came out, were they all Ring of Honor people that came out? Were they all people with Ring of Honor? Because there were certain people I noticed weren't out there, but I feel like everyone I saw was a Ring of Honor had some time, but I could be mistaken on that.
No, I'm not sure. I wish I could answer that.
I saw Joe. I saw the Young Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
No, not everybody, because I saw Dark Order. I saw John Silver several times clapping and looking really emotional. I don't think he has a Ring of Honor connection.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do think to your point, Jack. I think there were people, even Matt Hardy, and Matt had a run in Ring of Honor. Let's not forget. I think people that did have connection to the Briscoes and the Ring of Honor put themselves on the forefront of the stage. Right. But I don't think that was the criteria of where you can't go out there if you didn't have a Ring of Honor. I think it was. I don't think that was the case.
Yeah. Well, in any case, very, very emotional way to end. I agree. I think it was very well done, and I don't really have much to add to it. Don't really have much more to say. Overall episode, it's hard to judge an episode like this because, as Jimmy, you always say, it's the last thing is what you remember, and that is what I remember is that very good moment. So I want to leave saying this was a great episode. Any before we close out, any final thoughts, Jimmy? We'll start with you.
No, like you said, it closed out. I don't want to say perfectly. It's hard to say that word, but it's nice to see. As tragic as this situation is, it is a brotherhood, and we help each other heal. And this was part of the healing process tonight. Now, obviously, it didn't take everything away, but emotionally, but at the same time, it made you feel good seeing what we saw last night, the respect, the emotion, and everything at the same time. And it also made you feel for the families that were affected by this. But I hope that made sense what I just said, because it's tough. It is tough. And I think they did it right tonight. Let's put it that way.
And Justin, I'll let you close this. Any final thoughts on the show before we do all of our sign-off stuff?
No, I mean, overall, it was an okay show. AEW's in the period right now. They have a long stretch to go until we get to the next pay-per-view. So, there's a balance of building to the pay-per-view. You're trying to still keep some stories and payoffs happening. And then of course, again, you take the show and you get a tribute show out of it to some extent. So I thought they handled it, again, nicely with the ending and Mark Briscoe, his brother. I mean, he's out there 8 days removed, and he's lost his brother. His nieces, his brother's daughters, are in the hospital, and just there's so many things, and he's out there being full on Mark Briscoe in character and performed. I mean, it was a solid match. I mean, he didn't look like he did not belong. And I don't say that to be to patronize. I just say it in Mark. That was Mark Briscoe's first AEW match on TV, right? So, but he did not look like he didn't belong. He was there. The intensity was there. Connection with the crowd, timing, everything. So like that's heavy. You're 8 days removed from tragically losing your brother. Your brother in life, your brother in business. So for him to go out and perform the way he did, that's amazing. And so again, great job by AEW on fighting to have a show that remembers Jay Briscoe and promoting the T-shirt that's for sale. The proceeds go to his family. So Dynamite was what it was from the totality of AEW booking, but to the point of the Jay Briscoe tribute. I thought they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just want to thank everyone, by the way, who's been watching us. Again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Killer of Demons, Ricky Zaldivar. We got Jax in the house. I haven't seen in a while. Jax, got Arthur, John, Millard. We've got Night One here. Tommy O, Jeroy J, Sunny Star. Rocky's in the house. I saw M. Rouse in the house earlier. Don't know if they're still here. Daniel Price as well. Everyone else, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Roll call. Who's coming back Saturday night?
Yeah.
Who's coming back Saturday night? Let's hear it.
If you're in the chat, let us know if you're going to be watching us for the Royal Rumble after show. We're going to be doing this. Triple J closing out the first half of the road to WrestleMania. It's going to be us. It's going to be a really great time. I'm super excited to chat with you. I am so excited about that show. I am so pumped. I almost like, can we just get SmackDown out of the way and just do this thing already? I'm so pumped.
I'm looking forward to it as someone who actually officiated the very first Royal Rumble match. So
Ooh.
Just down the road from here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
It's going to be a lot easier to talk about it probably than make.
Wait, when you say the first one, the one that Duggan won?
Yes.
The 20-man one?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Crazy. It's funny to look back at the old one and realize it became such a big deal, you know?
And I love the archive. It's now archive footage from the late great Pat Patterson and him saying, Vince said this is never going to work.
Yeah.
This is going to work.
But Jimmy, as someone who's been there for the first one, where can the world find you online and the other stuff you're working on between now and Saturday?
Well, you can find me here on Mondays with Triple J and Wednesdays, usually with Justin and Issa, but Triple J was back this week. And again, we're back on Saturday after the Rumble. And you can also find me on all my social media platforms with my Ref and Rants from Monday to Wednesday, just having a little fun with that. And also now have joined my good brother in stripes, Brian Hebner, with the Reffing It Up podcast, where we have a little fun talking it up there.
And Justin, how about you? Where can the world check you out?
Same Monday nights here on Wrestling's podcast. Wednesday night, make sure you please like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, leave a nice comment. Again, I'm teasing. We have a lot of great things behind the scenes going on with this podcast, acquiring more sponsors, more support, more distribution. So all of those reviews are going a very long way. All those nice comments are going a very long way. So if you can take 15 seconds out just to hit a star and leave a sentence of a comment, that'd be great. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, I'm sparring with LaBar, myself, Dave LaGreca, and Thunder Rosa on Sirius XM Radio. And then again, Saturday, big Rumble. Rumble's one of the favorites for everybody. There's so much excitement to it. So I can't wait to be sitting back late night, Saturday night with you guys and talking and doing this with our fourth host, which is our wonderful audience that loves to jump in the chat room. So make sure if you can stay up, if you have the ability, stay up with us Saturday night. Be part of the live chat because you are the fourth man or fourth woman jumping in on the conversation. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I feel like we are gonna have no shortage of things to talk about. God, I mean, it might be a 2-hour podcast for all we know.
It's gonna be a ho hum show. It's not nothing special happens. Just another forgettable.
We'll breeze right through it.
No, it's gonna be awesome. I'm excited for it. I'm at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. Check me out, by the way. We do a news show now on Thursdays, Raj and I, but the rest of it, just follow at Wrestling Inc., follow at Real Jack Farmer, follow these fellas. Join us on Saturday. And again, as Justin said, leave a comment. We try to do a very good job of going back and looking at the comments. And I always try to respond to as many people as I can. Usually I follow up as late as 2 days after the episode goes up. So leave a comment if you want to ask a question or you've got feedback. I will ignore you if you're rude, though. So don't be rude. But if you have a real comment, I always try to get back to you. So
can't be rude to hair like that. This is not possible.
You can't. It's a law. It's a codified law. I don't know what that means, but it's codified and it's there forever. So you can't be rude to me. But I think that does it for us. Make sure to tune in Thursday, tomorrow, my show. Tune in tomorrow for the show with me and Raj, and Friday, and of course Saturday. That does it for us. We'll see you. It's the road to the next show, I guess.